Hey everyone. So I have a bad habit of talking too much during the syllabus time and wasting a lot of the first day of the new class. So what I did is I went ahead and recorded myself talking about the syllabus to cover everything I want to cover, but also to give myself a pretty strict time limit so that we can do other stuff today. So I don't want to read straight from the syllabus. That's why you have a print copy of it. That being said, there is one part I do want to read straight from, and that is the overview of what we're going to do this quarter in AP English Language and Composition. Okay, so if you look here on your page, it says Quarter 3 Overview. The title I came up with is Borders and Identities. And here's what I wrote. Our lives are defined by the invisible lines that separate us and people like us from others. Indeed, those phrases, us, people like us, others, could not exist without some sort of figurative demarcation. What is the difference between a person born in El Paso, Texas, and a person born 2 miles south in Ciudad Juarez? Without international borders, it is impossible to tell. And yet, the location of your birth has sweeping ramifications for your future freedoms and well being. There are further borders beyond those delineating separate countries. There are dividing lines related to class, gender, region, ethnicity, ability, or sexual orientation, which likewise distinguish us and them with extensive real world consequences. This semester, we will explore borders as well as the identities that form and are formed by them. Okay, so I italicized some words in there because I wanted to talk about how they're very basic words: us, people like us, others, us and them, right? We say them so often that we don't even really think about them. But when you think about it, those words really could not exist without some sort of lines dividing us. Um, I guess sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. We'll have to decide which is which, and what to do with that. I always like to put a piece of art on basically everything, but definitely on your syllabus. And I did want to talk about this really briefly. So if you look at the top, this is a piece of art, land art. It's called Repellent Fence. It's from 2015 by a three-person art group called Post. They call themselves Post Commodity. Raven Chacon, Cristobal Martinez, and Kate L. Twist. And what they did is this is over the border between the United States and Mexico. They connected, I believe it's 26 balloons. They have a series of 10-foot diameter 26 balloons that span across from the United States into Mexico. You'll see that on their face, they have this kind of a weird looking marking. And this is actually I think, an advertising symbol from a bird repellent that doesn't work. It's ineffective, right? Which seems to suggest something about the border, right? That there's this ineffective repellent, quote unquote, repellent fence, right? These are also indigenous colors. These are three indigenous people, Native American people, um, and these are red and blue and yellow and black are very are ancient symbols to many indigenous peoples. So they use those for that reason as well. They said, I don't have the quote pulled up, but they said they wanted to do this to show the interconnectedness between not just the people with indigenous people, not just the countries of the United States and Mexico, but really the connectedness with people and the land. I think they called it a suture, like a series of stitches, right? So this is one really interesting commentary on borders and border life and the identities that arise from border life. This is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about this quarter, okay? What we're going to read one book that is pretty short. It's like basically double space. It's 144 pages long. It's called When the Emperor Was Divine by Julia Otsuka. That we're going to mainly read outside of class, and we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. Then we're going to read some texts, and largely we're going to read shorter texts than we've read in this class. We're going to start with some kind of famous, maybe the most famous American document, the Declaration of Independence, which we're going to read today. We're also going to look at something that was written later, about 70 years later, called the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments. And then we're going to read something that's not quite as famous. That is a really cool thing we're going to read in a couple weeks called the I guess you would call it the Alcatraz Proclamation. So this is a very short piece, Why I Refuse the National Medal for the Arts by Adrian Rich. We are going to read a few essays. Poor Teeth, How to Tame a Wild Tongue. This is a very famous, letter from a Birmingham jail by Martin Luther King Jr. And then an essay by Hua Xi, right? So I'm excited. I love these texts, and I think it's going to give us a lot of wiggle room to discuss um, borders and identities, right? And write argumentatively. Um, okay, so the calendar. I definitely don't want to read through this, but this is a useful tool for you to keep in your notebook, in your binder. This is a working calendar for this quarter, and it's not obviously set in stone, but it's maybe one step below set in stone. So if you're ever going to be absent, or if you were absent, you know what you missed, right? So if you were not here on February 8th, we're going to look at the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments and connect it to current events. Obviously, you want to talk to me to see about specifically what you're going to miss or what you did miss, but you can kind of know what to expect. You can also see kind of bigger dates for, this date is our multiple choice test, right? That is subject to change, but again, I'll update you when when changes happen, right? You can also see all of the kind of bigger homework assignments that might be new this quarter, or might be due at a particular time, right? 10 weeks long. There you go. This is also a useful page. I don't want to read through all of it, but this is the gradebook breakdown for this quarter. So basically, just like in, I think, most of your other classes, there's a split. There's the 90% all tasks category, and then there's the 10% homework classwork category, okay? I split the 90% category into basically, last year they were called summative and formatives. This year there's not a specific split, so I, basically think of them as major and minor assignments, right? So 4 big major grades, those are 2 in-class essays, each are worth 60 points, and then 2 multiple choice tests, each are worth 40 points. So that's 200 total points. So half your grade is devoted to these 4 bigger tests and essays, right? These minor assignments also add up to 200 points, and there's more of them. So there are going to be pre-writing and outline assignments that are associated with each essay. There will also be 2 formative essays that are, I like to type those in class, so it's a little easier to do. They're worth less than a 60-point essay. They're 20 points, but they're another way of practicing for the AP language exam, which is coming up here in a few months. It's 2 vocab tests. There's going to be 4 pop quizzes associated with the novel. We'll talk more about that on Wednesday. We are going to start working on our research project. That's going to be a 30-point cumulative work for us this quarter, and then we'll finish with a journal retrospective at the end of the quarter that we'll talk more about in like 9 weeks or something like that, right? Okay, one thing that's different in this class, if you're new to my class, is I don't like to have a lot of homework assignments in the grade book. We do a lot of homework classwork grades, but there's not a lot of separate specific assignments, right? So 100 points of your homework classwork is devoted to your journal. This quarter I'm calling it extracts, and we'll talk, I guess, more about that on Friday, why I'm calling it that, or Thursday and Friday. But that's the new field guide. That's the new archive, whatever you want to call it. That's our ongoing journal assignment. We are going to do like we did last quarter in my class with Into the Wild. We did a reader's notebook. I'm going to make it's called a reader's zine that I made up. We'll talk more about that on Wednesday. That'll go along with the novel we're reading. We are going to have, I want to say, 5 different group worksheets. So there will be a few more entries in the gradebook this quarter for homework. And we are also going to have 5 individual rhetorical analysis worksheets. Okay. So this adds up to 300 total points. So basically a third of your grade is the journal, a third of your grade is the reader zine, and then a third of your grade is in-class solo work and individual work. I didn't put this in your syllabus, but in regards to the kinds of writing we're going to do this quarter, you'll see that This is, at least in my class, the first quarter that we really focus both on argumentative reading and argumentative writing. We've barely talked about that so far, but this we're going to make that a more of a specific focus, right? So although the two formatives are going to be language analysis and synthesis, the essays are going to be argumentative. And also, if you notice, the readings that we're going to do are all readings that posit some sort of an argument. Even the novel has a kind of like subtler arguments to it, right? So that'll be our stylistic focus. But our thematic focus, like I said, is on this issue: borders and identities, the things that separate us, the things that connect us, and what meanings we can make from that. So I'm excited to start, and I'm excited to have you in class. Thanks so much.